Sexual harassment in the workplace. A smart resources training. In the upcoming slides, we will go over the EEOC definition of sexual harassment. It is unlawful to harass a person, be it an applicant or employee, because of that person's sex. Harassment can include sexual harassment or unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature. Harassment does not have to be of a sexual nature, however, and can include offensive remarks about a person's sex. For example, it is illegal to harass a woman by making offensive comments about women in general. Both victim and the harasser can be either a woman or a man, and the victim and harasser can be the same sex. Although the law doesn't prohibit simple teasing, offhand comments, or isolated incidents that are not very serious, harassment is illegal when it's frequent or so severe that it creates a hostile or offensive work environment. The harasser can be the victim's supervisor, a supervisor in another area, a coworker, or someone who is not an employee of the employer, such as a client or customer. You can read more about how the EEOC defines sexual harassment at the link on this slide. Types of sexual harassment. In the next slides, we will review the different types of sexual harassment. Two examples of sexual harassment in the workplace are the hostile work environment and the quid pro quo, or this for that scenario. Let's take a deeper look. Hostile environment harassment. Harassment with a focus on any protected class will create a hostile environment. When this happens, it is referred to as hostile environment harassment. Some of the subjects that are at threat of hostile environment harassment include references to race and/or ethnicity, religion, color, national origin, age, in particular those over 40, sexual orientation, individuals with disabilities, sex, gender identity, and genetic information. A hostile environment can include harassment of a sexual nature. Harassment of a sexual nature, or sexual harassment, can include, but is not limited to, telling lewd jokes or sharing sexual anecdotes, making sexual comments about appearance, clothing, or body parts, unwelcome sexual advances, sending suggestive letters, notes, texts, or emails, asking sexual questions such as inquiries about someone's sexual history or their sexual orientation, and making offensive comments about someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. Physical harassment. Sexual harassment can also include physical elements. When this happens, it is referred to as physical harassment. Some examples of this include, but is not limited to, impeding or blocking someone's movement, assaulting. This is defined as touching someone against his or her will or without their consent, and inappropriate touching of body or clothing, including pinching, patting, rubbing, kissing, hugging, or stroking, or purposefully brushing up against another person. Nonverbal harassment is another example of a hostile work environment. Some examples of this would be looking up and down or staring at a person's body, making derogatory gestures or facial expressions of a sexual nature, staring in a sexually suggestive or offensive manner, or whistling, and following a person around. Visual harassment. Visual harassment can lead to a hostile environment. An example of visual harassment is displaying or sharing posters, drawings, pictures, screensavers, pornography, or emails of a sexual nature. Harassment of a non-sexual nature. Non-sexual conduct can also be considered sexual harassment. This is done when one creates an intimidating, hostile, uncomfortable, or offensive environment due to certain treatment towards someone of a different gender. For example, a female working on a construction crew of mostly males always gets her tools hidden by her male co-workers. In the next few slides, we are going to take a look at the other type of sexual harassment we mentioned at the beginning of this training. Quid pro quo. Quid pro quo sexual harassment happens when someone in a position of authority requires or demands sexual favors and in return sets conditions of employment such as granting salary increases, giving promotions, or even simply maintaining one's employment. Is it harassment? That really depends on you. One's conduct is not considered harassment if it is permitted or even welcome, unless it is observed and offends another. Clear communication is very important when someone is harassing you and can be either done verbally or even in writing. Clearly indicate that the behavior makes you feel uncomfortable and you want it to stop immediately. Tips if facing sexual harassment. Sexual harassment should always be taken seriously and handled professionally. There are ways that you can protect yourself if you experience sexual harassment. Some of these include: clearly say no. Tell the harasser that their behavior makes you feel uncomfortable and you would like it to stop. Document what has happened. Write down who, what, where, dates, times, etc. Don't delay. Report the harassment early. Filing a complaint. Sexual harassment should not be tolerated in workplaces. If you experience sexual harassment, it is beneficial to communicate with a supervisor, manager, or if necessary, directly to HR and provide clear documentation of the occurrences. Find out about your company's grievance procedures with human resources and file a formal complaint. If your company does nothing, file a complaint with the EEOC. Company tips. It is important that efforts are made to protect your employees from sexual harassment. Some ways you can do this include: have a harassment policy, conduct harassment training, constitute a grievance process, follow through on proper disciplinary action for violations, be consistent throughout the entire organization.